today. So I'm going to be showing you some of the pets in our household and also going to give you some tips that I've found helpful when it comes to keeping pets with houseplants. I know a lot of us who love plants are also animal lovers. This right here is Parrot. He's a crested gecko and they love to jump. Quark is like really chill, so he's probably just gonna hang out with me. If you see the crested gecko in the background, my sister crocheted him to match Korak. And I think she did a very, very good job. He also just woke up from a nap since these guys are normally nocturnal. So he's kind of in a sleepy mood right now. Down here we have Korak's cage. I have the whole build of this on YouTube already. It's grown in a lot since then. He is nocturnal, usually sleeps during the day and wakes up once it starts to get dark out. The Syngonium albo I planted in here has gone absolutely crazy and just kind of vined all over the place. But you know, Korak really likes climbing on those vines. So I've kind of just left it as is, even though it's gone kind of wild and crazy. And honestly, I don't think the other plants have done super well because the Syngonium has just taken over. But you know what? That is okay. I often find Korak sleeping in really like random positions in here. He's so funny and entertaining. I would honestly recommend a crested gecko to pretty much anyone as like a first-time reptile. He's easy to handle. He's easy to care for. He doesn't have any special requirements in terms of humidity or temperature. You can do a bioactive tank if you want to. You can do just a normal tank. They eat a crested gecko diet, which is just like a fruit blend basically with insects in it. So you just like mix it with water. They don't need live insects, which a lot of reptiles need live insects. So they're super easy. Obviously you can feed them like crickets and stuff. And I do feed him isopods as well, but it's not like a requirement, which I find makes the care a whole lot easier. They don't bite. They're generally very well-tempered, easygoing, and they don't need a huge amount of space. So 10 out of 10 would recommend crested geckos if you're thinking of maybe getting a reptile. So often when we're talking about pets and houseplants, there's a lot of emphasis on like pet safe houseplants. So a lot of plants have compounds in them that are meant to deter animals from eating them. Basically, the compounds range from causing like discomfort to being toxic. Ones that are safe, even if your critters do chew on them, are things like ferns. Hoyas are safe. Anything in the Maranta or Calathea kind of family, those are good. Peperomias are good. Phalaenopsis orchids are also non-toxic. Those are all safe, even if your cat, whatever, likes to nibble on your plants. Now, most aroids, so things like philodendrons and monsteras, they contain a compound. They're called insoluble calcium oxalates. Even though these plants would technically not fall under the pet safe category, these insoluble calcium oxalates are not something you have to worry about as much as some of the other toxins. So there's actually more like a range. It's not like black and white. So insoluble calcium oxalates, basically they have like a sharp needle-like structure to them. So if your, say, cat chews on it, what it's going to do is those needle-like structures are going to irritate their mouths and possibly their throat. If they consume enough of them, it may cause irritation in the digestive tract. I was seeing in some references that they can very rarely cause airway swelling, but because they're insoluble, it means that these compounds are not absorbed into your pet's system. So they basically just go right through the digestive tract. Any effects like irritation of the mouth are temporary. it's not something that's going to kill your pet. It's just going to cause them some discomfort. And when you think about it as being like a defense mechanism for a plant trying to deter animals from eating it, it kind of makes sense that, okay, you chew on this plant, it hurts the animal's mouth, the animal isn't going to like chew on it again. Now, obviously, if your cat was like mowing down the whole thing and eating these crystals in large quantities, then you might start to see those like digestive issues, and you might want to take them, get them checked out by the vet, whatever. For me, I feel pretty comfortable keeping philodendrons, monsteras in my collection that have these insoluble calcium oxalate crystals, because I know even if my cat does happen to chew on them, or if River happens to chew on them, they're not going to cause any like long-term effects or be detrimental to them beyond just a bit of irritation. Now, some plants that you have to be more careful with, some plants contain not insoluble calcium oxalates, they contain soluble calcium oxalates. So because they're soluble, that means they're going to actually get absorbed into your pet system. Common plants that have these are oxalis. So for me, I keep mine like elevated on a shelf out of my cat's reach. I fortunately have a cat who also doesn't really like to climb and get onto my shelves. If you did have a cat that was actually actively climbing and trying to eat your plants, I would recommend like putting it in a bin, in a terrarium, in a cloche, something like that, so that they can't chew on them. Because these soluble calcium oxalates, when they get it absorbed into the system, they can actually cause renal failure. So that is much more serious and potentially life-threatening for your pets. Now, I believe begonias also contain these soluble calcium oxalates. I was kind of seeing some sources say they were the insoluble calcium oxalates and some were saying soluble. So it may also depend on the species, but just to be safe, I would not keep begonias somewhere where your pets can get them. That was actually kind of a bit of a surprising one for me. Now, there are some plants with other compounds that are even more dangerous. So other ones that can cause a severe reaction for your pet are Dracaena, which fortunately I don't really like anyway, so I don't have any in my collection, and Kalanchoe. So like Mother of Millions, I think, is a common one. Those have compounds that are bad for your pets. Now, ones that are really bad, like deadly bad for your pets, are going to be things like lilies. So I know we don't often keep those as house plants, but people often bring them into their homes, like Easter lilies and stuff. They're very pretty, and you might put them on your table, but if your cat like jumps up onto your table and nibbles on them, they're like highly toxic. So just avoid those altogether. Another one to avoid, sago palms actually have a compound that is extremely toxic. Sago palms are a type of cycad, so I would just avoid cycads altogether because they likely have a similar compound. So just to be safe, keep cycads away from your pets. And then also plants in the nightshade family. So I don't know about a lot of these that are grown as houseplants, but one that I have in my collection, the Solanum oleanum, it's like a terrarium plant. I was actually surprised to find out that is in the nightshade family, so it's also toxic. So those are a few that I wanted to like flag to keep in mind. All right, let's go and say hi to everyone, starting with Decker. Hello, Decker. You'll often find Decker in the most comfy spot in the house. So I couldn't make my bed this morning because Decker decided to lay in it, and he's been there all day. It's about 3 o'clock now. Decker is a super sweet boy. We think he's about 14 or 15. We've had him since he was around 8 years old. So he is an old man. You can tell his eyes are kind of cloudy, and I do think he has arthritis of some sort. So he's not the most active That is okay. He is the sweetest. He always greets us when we come home. He usually flops on the floor, expecting tummy rubs. He loves people. Whenever we have people over, he always wants to be the center of attention. He loves everyone, and everyone loves him. Decker's favorite toy is these strings, but he never learned to actually hunt, so he is not a threat of any of the birds outside. We do let him outside occasionally. He's allowed to go outside, but yeah, don't worry, he's not like a danger. River, are you getting jealous that I'm playing with Decker? Decker really isn't a threat to River either. He basically just ignores him. He would actually like to be friends with River, I think, but River doesn't really want to be friends with him, and it'll actually be River who tries to attack Decker sometimes. Decker's fortunate he has a thick coat of fur, so he usually isn't, River has never hurt him, but yeah, it's actually River who's the problematic one. Decker did chew on my plants a bit when we first got him. I did have a Monstera that he liked to chew on, but since I let him go outside, he hasn't really wanted to do that so much. I think he just likes to chew on plants if his stomach is hurting, if he needs to cough up a hairball or something. I think that's the main reason he tried to chew on my plants to begin with. It's kind of just instinctive for them. So if your cat specifically is chewing on your plants, you could consider getting them some cat grass. I have done that for Decker too, and he seems to prefer that to anything else. Yeah, he is a very sweet boy. He is a big boy. He is a big cat. He's not fat, but he is he's fluffy. And he loves to cuddle. He will go and lay. He actually prefers my husband to me, but he'll go and lay on your chest with his little paws right up in your face. And if you stop petting him for a second, he'll start licking your face, which is difficult when you're trying to fall asleep. You tired already, buddy? Are you tired? This is about as active as he gets. The other thing he likes to do, he really likes drinking out of the sink. So we have an ensuite bathroom, and he can kind of hop up on the counter of the sink. He'll hop up on the tub and then go to the sink, and he loves drinking out of the sink. He has a fountain. With running water, but he prefers when we actually go to the sink and we turn it on for him. And every morning he waits on the counter and stares at me from the counter, waiting for me to turn on the water for him. We've also started giving him treats after he uses his litter box, because he was having some issues peeing outside his litter box, and that has really helped. But now he will also go into his litter box and out of it without actually using it, and then meow at you so that he can get a treat. He's very vocal, but he's a very good boy, so it's hard to say no to him. Now, the hilarious thing, if we go to River, this is where River has been cuddling this whole time, because River is jealous that I am playing with Decker. He is a very sweet boy as well, but he is very toxic. Now you're gonna bite me? You don't want me to pet you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Are you pleased with yourself, mister? Are you happy? Are you happy that the attention is on you? River gets kind of freaked out sometimes when I'm doing videos. He doesn't really understand why I'm talking to the air. I think he gets stressed out that there's someone else around that he doesn't know about. So yeah, I was kind of bobbing his head like that. That sometimes is what's going on face. And then he does that with his wings when he wants to go somewhere, he gets kind of anxious. All right, hopefully River will be okay to sit with me for a minute. But I have a walnut, and he absolutely loves walnuts and will do anything for them. So maybe if I feed him walnuts, he'll want to stay with me. Yeah. Also, this little jerk was in my shirt earlier, and he totally chewed up my microphone So if the sound is not as good, it's because this little brat sliced the wires, which you shouldn't be rewarded for. But anyways. So River's about 8 years old. He's named after Dr. River Song. Do you need to go poop? Go to your perch. Are you gonna stay here? Do you need to go poop? Go to your perch. Oh, are you just trying to get a treat for lifting your wings? Oh, he knows. So one of the treats he knows is to lift his wings. Okay, lift your wings. Lift your wing. Lift your wing. Yeah, okay, all right. So he thinks that's what he needs to do now in order to get more walnuts. So yeah, he's named after Dr. River Song. We didn't know if he was a boy or a girl when we got him. You need to like DNA test parrots. So we named him something gender neutral. Did a DNA test. He ended up being a boy. You're still lifting your wing, eh? Yeah, this is one of the tricks we've been working on lately. I'm also trying to harness train him. He really doesn't like the harness. The lifting of the wings is supposed to be kind of like a help with that. He doesn't want to be pet right now because he just wants walnuts. Lift your wing. All right, there you go. He knows a few more things. Like he's pretty good. He will I'm trying to teach him that he'll like fly to my fingers when I tell him to come here. He does it most of the time. He's not like 100% reliable. River, come here, come here. There, good boy. So obviously River is flighted. So I found with River that ever since I have kept him flighted, he's been a lot more calm and confident. Before, he would always kind of get anxious when he wanted to go somewhere because he always had to be kind of like ferried around. But now that he can just fly, he can mostly just do his own thing. He enjoys being in and around his cage, so I've never had problems like putting him back in his cage. But yeah, I definitely think letting him fly has been a good thing, and I've seen how better he's gotten with his dexterity. He can navigate the hallways in our house pretty good. He's quite the agile little guy. Yeah, you're so pretty. Yeah, since I've allowed him to fly and kind of do his own thing, he doesn't need to rely on me. So he squawks less, and most of the times I just leave him so he can figure things out on his own. I also make sure he has lots of stuff to forage and chew, and as long as he has enough stuff to keep him busy, then he generally doesn't get into too much trouble. So for example, like he loves to chew my staghorn fern mounts, so I just kind of gave him his own piece of cork to chew, and as long as he kind of has his own, then he doesn't bother my stuff, and that usually works out okay. Just a little wood chipper. Okay, so let's talk about why you should not get a parrot. I know everyone sees River and they love him because he's so pretty. And he is really sweet. Like he will cuddle with me. He's really, really nice and he's entertaining. But I would absolutely not recommend getting a parrot. I wouldn't feel like I was being a responsible pet owner if I didn't discourage you from buying a parrot. So some reasons. There's a long list. This isn't even going to be like extensive. But probably reason number one, they live a really long time. So a sun conure like River is going to live around 30 years. And unless you can predict that you're still going to be able to care for this parrot in 30 years, which, you know, none of us can predict the future. It's kind of that's a big ask. That's a big commitment. It's not really fair to that creature if you're expecting to have to rehome them at some point. I've had River I was in high school when I got him, and my life is like so different now from when I got him originally, and he's probably still gonna live another like 20 years. 30 years is also like on the low end of the spectrum. Any of the larger parrots like an Amazon, an African gray, macaw are going to live even longer. So if you're going to get a bird, maybe consider like adopting an older one. You can imagine how many of these animals are in rehoming situations or in shelters because they've actually outlived their owners or there's been a change in circumstance along the way. Care for parrots is also not straightforward. Like, they need specific circumstances. For one, parrots are loud. Even if they don't have like a bad habit of screaming, like River is generally not loud. Like, he hasn't been loud at all up until now, and I've been filming with him just, you know, kind of chilling. But that doesn't mean he doesn't scream. Like, if he sees something outside that spooks him, he will scream. It's kind of like an alert to other animals. It's just what they do. You know, if we are gone for the day and then we come home, if he hears the garage door opening, he screams. Like, he's loud. That's just the way they communicate. If I'm in one room and my husband is in the other room preparing food, River will also become overexcited and he'll yell and express very strongly that he wants to be in the other room. So even if your bird is quiet most of the time, they're going to be loud at least some of the time. And if you're in an apartment or something, that's probably not going to be suitable. Your neighbors are going to be able to hear it. I will insert a clip of him yelling at the top of his lungs so you know what I'm talking about. Parrots are also so messy. There's no way to make them not messy. When they eat, they chew their food up into little bits and just kind of fling the bits everywhere. They don't really care what's beneath them. So cleaning is kind of a constant thing. They also poop everywhere. Now, River is pretty good. Like, he doesn't like pooping in like his home. He will normally fly to his perch in order to poop. So that is good. He does at least have like a designated area where I have like paper set up. So if he poops or if he drops food in there, that's okay. But it's still like a messy thing on your floor, right? Even though it's contained. So if you're very much a neat freak and your home always has to be perfect, bird, not for you. And as much as I try and keep him in his own areas, like on his perch or on his cage, he will fly to other areas. Like, he likes flying to the backs of the chairs around my dining room table. I've tried to deter him from doing that by putting some like tinfoil on the backs of my chairs, because if he lands there, then he'll eventually poop there, and I don't really want that all over my floors and my chairs. But even with the tinfoil, he still does it anyways sometimes. So there's only so much you can do, and you will be cleaning up bird poop from random places. That's kind of just how it is. Birds are also highly destructive. They're basically like a toddler running around with a pair of pruning shears. River absolutely does chew my plants. Some that he especially likes are succulents. He likes my burro's tail for some reason, like the crunchy texture of those leaves. He just absolutely loves. I don't know why, like, that in particular is so enticing to him, but he loves to chew them. My Hupertzia as well, he's pruned a whole bunch off of that one. And to deal with it, so birds don't really you can't really punish them. Like, they don't really understand. So if he's on like a plant and he's chewing it, oh, good job jumping, Korak. Did you make it? Did you make it to the monstera leaf? Come on. That was a big jump. That was a big jump. Good job. So if he's on a plant he's not supposed to be, well, he's not supposed to be on any of them. So if he's trying to chew a plant and I catch him, I will just say like, no, I'll just remove him, put him back on his cage. And I'll just keep doing that as many times as I have to before he doesn't go there anymore. Usually he will lose interest. And the other thing I do is I try to just make sure he has his own stuff to chew on and forage. So if he's chewing on my plants, I'm kind of taking that as a sign that he's probably bored. So I'll usually give him something new, something of his own that he can chew on. That's usually enough to distract him. I have tried using like a bitter spray on my plants, and that does seem to deter him somewhat, but it's not foolproof. So for something that he really, really, really likes to chew, I will actually take and remove it to a place he can't get to. So my burro's tail, for example, I have them in my bathroom. They're the only plants in there, but there I can at least like close the door so he can't get to them. Of course, the succulents grow like so slowly, right? So the damage he can do in like 10 minutes it'll take like a whole season to get that growth back. But yeah, if you don't want your plants to be ripped apart, again, probably parrots are not for you. But I have to say, like River is pretty good. He's gotten better lately, just considering how many plants I have in my space. And he does pretty much have free flight of this area. Whenever I'm home, he can kind of go where he wants. And he's pretty good about not touching the plants as long as I give him enough activities and stuff to do that are like his and that he's allowed to do. Another thing with the pruning shear beak, parrots bite. They will bite you at some point, and they bite hard. They will draw blood. And for me, I know what to expect. It doesn't bother me, and I've sacrificed myself many times when he's like, River doesn't bite me, but sometimes he gets scared when other people are around and he'll bite my hand thinking it's somebody else. And yeah, it's pretty painful. Like if you're worried about getting bit, like don't get a parrot. Don't do it. And a lot of people, like I've heard this many times, will say that, you have to get like a hand-fed baby if you want them to be nice. And River was a hand-fed baby, and he, has still bit plenty of people in his time. What can actually happen when you have a hand-fed baby, so the parrots can kind of develop an unnatural attraction or attachment to humans. And then if they bond with one person, then they end up very much like attached to that one person, and they'll attack anyone else. That's kind of what happened with River. So I got him when I was in high school. I took care of him for several years. When I moved out and got married, he stayed with my family. He got very attached to my sister. And after a while, he was good with my mom and my dad, but he started to attack like me if I came over. He started to attack my brother as well, and would actually like fly and viciously attack him. And long story short, my family couldn't tolerate or deal with that behavior, so he ended up coming back to live with me. Now, he got comfortable with me very quickly, but he did the same thing where he would fly and attack my husband for, I don't know, probably the first at least 3 months that we had him. And now he's great. Like he'll cuddle with my husband, but he's still not comfortable with guests and will like fly and attack them. So we have to watch him very closely. Like it's still taking a lot of work and effort to like work through that behavior. So there's no like magic cure to get like a perfect bird. And if you can't handle negative behaviors and you don't know how to cope with them, and that's why you're afraid to say like adopt a bird versus like get a baby, you're probably not like ready for a bird. You know that saying, like, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I think that kind of applies to birds pretty well, where if you're not willing to work through that, like probably they're gonna have some issues at some point that you're gonna need to deal with. Even River, like he's developed a fear towards spray bottles, where if we're cleaning, he will like fly and attack the spray bottle. And again, it's like something we have to work through. It's like requires training to like get him comfortable with the spray bottles and not have a negative response. So yeah, it's tricky. You also run into like hormonal issues with parrots. So you can't fix a parrot like you can a cat or a dog. And especially when they've been hand fed, they will often see a human as a mate. And when they're hormonal, it leads to all sorts of other behavioral issues. Like they're more likely to be aggressive if they're in that like mating mode and they're hormonal driven. So, and a lot of people don't know that like even like petting a parrot on its like back or under its wing and stuff, is like, I want to mate with you behavior, not just like general friendly social behavior. So you can actually be like encouraging this hormonal behavior. This was all stuff that I didn't know when I first got River, and I've only learned like somewhat recently, and I've seen a huge change in River's behavior with that knowledge. It's an example of how complex these creatures are, and you do need to do a lot of research before you consider getting one. They're very intelligent, they need a lot of time, they need a lot of attention. The cages are expensive, the food's expensive. They constantly need like toys and enrichment. It's a challenge to find someone who has the expertise to take care of them when you go away. So there's a lot of factors that just make them not for most people. Beautiful, yes, really cute, but not for most people. And if you want more resources, I'm going to link to Can of Nutella on Instagram. I think Melanie is her name. She has lots of great resources. I've learned so much from her, and just implementing some of her suggestions, the improvement in River's behavior in the past couple of years is just like night and day. So I 100% recommend her page. Like, this is what she does for a living. She is, she's amazing. This is Chica. Chica is a lionhead rabbit. Unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be able to get a really good view of her. So I just adopted her recently from a friend that basically had to move and couldn't take her with him. So she's still getting used to me. I haven't really changed anything in her cage since she came to live here. She's really sweet. She's about six years old. I'm trying to encourage her to like come out of her cage and chill with me in my office, but she hasn't wanted to do that yet. So I'm just kind of letting her do her thing. She's at least calmed down a lot. I'm trying to make her as comfortable as possible, but hopefully you'll be able to see her a bit more in the future if she gets more comfortable. In my vivarium that I recently rescaped, and you'll kind of see an update of how all the plants are doing in here. I have poison dart frogs. Now, poison dart frogs are not poisonous. They're poisonous because of the insects that they eat. But if you don't feed them poisonous insects, then they're not poisonous. So they eat flightless fruit flies, and I make the fruit fly cultures myself. I won't show you them because they're kind of gross, to be honest. If you're not into insects, don't get poison dart frogs. They're also not the kind of pets that you handle. They're more just for looking nice. I got them because I realized that my plants that I like, I really love terrarium plants. I realized that the terrarium plants and the dart frogs often have the same care requirements. And actually, when I was looking up stuff about anthuriums and some of the plants I wanted to take care of, I actually found a lot of the answers were on these dart frog forums. So there are a lot of knowledgeable people in the hobby and a lot of crossover between the terrarium hobby and the dart frog vivarium hobby. But they are very cool creatures, very easy to care for other than breeding the fruit flies. I make new cultures every few weeks, and that's the main expense is the supplies for those. The cultures themselves cost around like $10 each if you're going to buy them. And I do buy them every now and then to kind of refresh the ones that I have, but I wouldn't recommend like buying them regularly. I would recommend making some, and if you want like more information on that, you can definitely message me. The fruit flies are always get calcium dusted, so you just buy like a calcium supplement and shake up the flies with it so that the frogs get the nutrients that they need. And I have seen the dart frogs climbing all over this rescape. They seem to really like it. I have seen them more, but they still have lots of places to hide, which they do need. So yeah, they are happy in here. And yeah, if you like terrarium plants and you're not shy about bugs, I definitely recommend dart frogs. They are beautiful little creatures. All right, this is Ember. Ember is a milk snake. He's actually one of the oldest pets in my collection. I think he is also he's like 10 years old. He's very nice. I honestly have always loved snakes. I never really understand when people are afraid of snakes because he has never bit anyone. River has bit me, cats have bit me. He has never hurt me. I think he is going to be shedding soon. His skin is kind of like loose and he looks kind of like milky on the bottom. So he is due for a shed. You can actually tell he's starting to like flake a little bit on the top of his head. So he'll probably like rip that outer layer off soon. You'll see he has some damage on him. So he unfortunately escaped shortly after I got him. So this was like several years ago now. He escaped because my cat at the time would go on top of his cage and lay on it, and he actually like broke the mesh. And then when I came home, snake was gone. And what I believe happened is he got into the duct system, and it wasn't like finished at the time. It wasn't like connected to the furnace, but I think he managed to get in there and found his way down to the basement of our house. So he was actually there in the basement for like several months. I thought he was like gone and we wouldn't find him, but one day my dad found him down there. It was unfinished, like an unfinished basement under just part of the house. So he managed to survive all on his own, but he was like damaged. He ended up like losing the tip of his tail and has some scarring on his back. But he has managed to survive and has managed to be, okay, even with that injury. Like he sheds, he doesn't have a problem shedding. So yeah, he's done okay. He eats frozen thawed mice once a week that I buy at my local pet store. Sometimes in the winter, he'll like go several weeks without eating. Like he'll just refuse the mice that I give him, but generally he doesn't have a problem feeding. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't recommend a snake as a pet for most people. I love snakes, but I do find him kind of boring, to be honest. Like they sleep and hide most of the day. They're a little bit difficult to handle because of how fast they move. I think ball pythons are a bit like slower than like a milk snake or a corn snake. So I often don't get him out unless I'm feeding him or if I have people over who want to see him. He's definitely like, he's fun. He is quick. You do have to watch him. You can't like leave him alone for a second. I'm gonna be honest, snakes also like kind of smell bad. Like he's honestly probably the smelliest of all the creatures other than maybe like Decker's litter box. And that's just due, I think, to the food that they eat. He doesn't have a bioactive tank. He has just a very basic tank. I feel like when I was researching it initially, the high humidity is not as good for them. It can be helpful with like sheds and stuff, but having that much moisture is not generally that good for them. And he lives in my office where I don't have any plants, so he usually keeps me company while I'm working. Yeah, that is Ember. Hey, excuse me, mister, what are you doing? What are you doing? River, come here. Excuse me, mister, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come here. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, isopod time. So in here I have some Porcellio expansus. They like a bit of a drier habitat compared to some other isopods. These ones are not full size. I did have some in the past, but unfortunately a lot of them didn't make it, so I repurchased some. These ones that are small seem to be doing a lot better. I don't think I've lost any from this last batch that I've gotten. They're probably my favorite species of isopod just because of how big they are and how interesting they are. So I'm hoping one day I'll be able to get some babies from these guys, but it does take a long time to breed them. So in this bin is Magic Potion isopod. This population is kind of crashed, but some at least are still alive. They're really cute and they get yellow and black spots on them. Here we have a armadillium Gestroy, yellow spotted. I really like these guys because they're so large. I wish you would uncurl, little buddy. You're okay, I'm not gonna hurt you. They are quite fun to watch. I started getting into isopods just from going to like reptile shows. I started out with dairy cow isopods that I was just using as like feeder insects and a cleanup crew in my bioactive tanks, but I started to discover how many different kinds there are, and my sister also got into them as like a hobby, and now it's kind of something we do together. Sometimes we'll buy some and split the colony. Unfortunately, this is actually the only Gestroy I have left. I lost a good chunk of this colony too, and I'm not 100% sure why. And I never got babies from these guys, so I am hoping to get some more at one point, so this little one isn't so lonely. In the next bin we have some Panda King isopods. They're honestly really cute. These were the first like fancy isopods that my sister got, and they're just adorable. Like Cubaris isopods are they're really, really cute. These guys love to burrow and they curl up into balls, but you can see them uncurling. There's definitely some babies in here too. These guys have done really, really well. Like they're easy to breed, easy to care for. So if you're looking for like a good beginner, like fancy isopod, definitely recommend the Panda Kings. I have some ficus growing in here. I've started adding some plants to the isopod bins. They usually have like a wet side with some moss and then a drier side with substrate, leaf litter, and usually a piece of cork. And I have them all in these just plastic containers with ventilation on the side. And that seems to work pretty well. In this bin, we have what are called clowns. I'll put the full name on the screen. They're really cool. Look at all the little babies. Baby isopods are called Mankey. And that's one of the fun things about isopods is how easy they are to breed. But these guys have really fun spots on them. Oh, there's one right there. They're really pretty. I think these are the most recent ones that I have. Oh yeah, they're all in the moss, which maybe means it's a bit dry in there and I should give that a little bit of water. I mean, if you want the ultimate like low maintenance pet, get an isopod because, I mean, they really are just like, you can't get much easier than that. This one is a papaya, so they're a cute like little pink color. I used to have tons of these guys, but again, the population kind of crashed, but you can see the baby, so it's coming back. Maybe it's because I put begonias in here and I've learned that those are not very good. And this Macotes petola is looking absolutely stunning. For some reason, it won't stay alive in my vivarium, but loves to be in these little prop boxes. So now my isopod bins are doing double duty. It's a bit wet in here, but I find the Cubaris like it a little bit wetter. All right, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of the creatures in my house. They bring me so much joy, and I hope that they have brought you a little bit of joy as well. Please let me know if you'd like updates, if you'd like to see more of them, if you have any questions. Hello. I appreciate your support so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.